Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 534. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? I hope that you are doing well. It is Monday, November 3rd. I can hardly believe we are in the last 2 months of the year. The year has just gone by so quickly, and I am not quite ready for all of the holidays and everything that brings with it, but I am enjoying fall. This past week was truly fall. It's been in the 40s and 50s. It's been rainy, crisp. The leaves are all turned, so they're beautiful. This weekend, my husband and I took a drive over to Illinois to meet up. His family, the first weekend in November, always has a big Thanksgiving family potluck, which definitely signals the end of the year is coming. So we drove over there for that. It gave me lots of knitting time in the car. I didn't get as much spinning and sewing done as I would like, of course, because we were doing a lot of driving, but we had a great time, and the foliage was beautiful. It was a really nice weekend. So I hope that your week is off to a good start. My Monday is a little bit slow. All of my meetings got canceled for today, so I have work to do, but it's quiet and at my own pace, which is just how I like it. So today I am dipping into my tea stash. I am working on a vanilla chai black, and this is from Distinctly Tea, and you can't see the label. The label is actually under here. Let's see if I can make it a little bit. It's Distinctly Tea, and it is in Stratford. Oh, here we go. Distinctly Tea. It is in Stratford in Canada. Every year my sister goes up to Stratford, Ontario, which hosts a Shakespeare festival, like Stratford upon Avon, and she always does some shopping, and she brought me back tea last time, and this one is a vanilla chai black. It's Ceylon teas, cinnamon, ginger, pepper, cardamom, coriander, anise, cloves, vanilla bits, calendula petals, and flavor. So that is what I am drinking today, and I'm drinking it in my roastery mug, which is a local Kansas City coffee roaster. I'm trying to drink and do local as much as I can. So that is what I'm drinking today. It is keeping me toasty warm on a chilly day, and I have lots and lots to show you. So I didn't knit as much as I hoped I would, but I have lots of things to show you. So let's start there. Okay, so the one project that has been in process for a while that you've seen a bunch of times, or a couple times, is, I guess only a couple times, is Roxy's socks. I am working on socks for my niece, and I finished the first sock, so I'm very excited about this. This is her first sock. The pattern that I'm using is Wishing You Were Here by Kitchen Sink Shop. I think that's what it's called. Notes will be, the pattern will be in the notes, I believe. It might only be available on Ravelry. I can't remember. It was in my downloads. It is a free pattern, but I have made it before, so it's in my downloads. The yarn that I am using this is not quite the right label, but it is the correct dyer, is Deep Dyed Yarns Good Juju. It is her sock base, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. I bought this when I visited Kentucky earlier this year. She is a Kentucky dyer. And the colorway is called Multiplayer, and it is just this awesome, almost supernova blue, purple, pink, black. And the pattern doesn't show super well. It's a little bit of a lacy pattern. It's got some yarn overs in there, and it just is down one side of the foot, and the socks are mirrored, or sorry, down one side of the leg and foot, and I chose to do it all the way down to the toe, and then the socks are mirrored, so next time it will be on this side as I make the other sock. I have not cast on the other sock. It is on my list to do the ribbing for the second sock today. I just Kitchenered the toe last night, so no second sock syndrome here yet, but I do want to get the second one started. I will be giving these to my niece when I see her at Thanksgiving, because I won't see her again before the end of the year. So that's why I'm working on them early. But this one, the second sock, the mate to this, is all that stands between me and being done with my end of the year holiday knitting. And that is fabulous. I admit I didn't do a lot of knitting this year. I just did socks for the kids, but I also did their sweaters, and I am going to be shopping for the rest at a local bookstore, and then I'm going to call it quits and be done with most of my holiday shopping. So I'm very excited about that. I exchange gifts with my family. My husband's family doesn't really exchange gifts very much. We just do stockings, and I will get that stuff when I get back after Thanksgiving. So this is the sock that I have finished, and I'll have a second one in progress. And my guess is it'll take me the next 2 weeks to get it done, just because it's not going to be my first priority. Really, as long as I finish it in the car on the way to California, I am good. And so I am breathing a sigh of relief, because many times I have needed to knit a whole pair of socks on that trip, and I am sure that I will not need to do that. I'll probably have a half a sock at most, if not be completely done. So I'm very excited about that. That's still living in my Halloween bag. This was from Kicks and Giggles, which is a shop that has long since closed. I probably, once I finish these socks, will put this bag away for another year, even though I love it, with the funky little witches. She's so funny. I love her. But so that is what I am working on there. The project that's on no work this week, but reinforcements, is my blanket project. So I had talked to you about how I was knitting kind of a leftovers blanket project using some yarn that I had in my stash, and then holding it doubled with fingering weight. And it was yarn that was from Craftsy, back when Craftsy was Craftsy, before Blueprint, before all the things. And it was an orange. It was called Highland DK by Cloudborne. That was their kind of house brand way back then. And it is a DK weight, but it's really on the thin side. And I had this kind of pumpkin orange color that I'm holding with other things stranding throughout. And there were a couple people on Ravelry who had more orange yarn, but none of them sadly responded to me in the several weeks that I asked to see if I could purchase it. So I finally found someone who had a different color, but in the same yarn, that was willing to sell it to me. And that arrived this week. So because basically almost all of the yarn that I have is in this, and it's a foot or two, but it's not like done. So, and I wanted this to be real people sized. So, what I got for the second half is, it's kind of, I call this color mushroom because I don't even know what to call it. So this is Cloudborne Highland DK. And this is called Shayla Heather. That's the color. And it is a nondescript kind of brown, taupe, green, gray mushroom. And I think it will be fine against the orange. It'll be a lighter half of the blanket, but I don't think that's a real problem. And so my plan is to sort of interweave and kind of transition between the two colors now, and then go into the second half, which will be this. And then when I'm done with this, I am done with the blanket. So it will be as long as it's going to be. And then I need to be on the hunt for a few more fingering weight scraps to finish this, but I'm sure that will not be a problem. I have been using my fingering weight scraps from Zen Yarn Garden, and I may be almost out of those. So I'm not sure what will be in the second half of the blanket, but it is just a lot of different things held together, and it's meant to be kind of scrappy and fun, and hopefully will keep a kid warm when I am done with it. The goal is to donate this blanket. I don't know exactly where yet. I have a variety of places that I donate to throughout the year, and then I always keep an eye out for, it seems like, more and more these days, there are natural disasters in the country or around the world, and people take up quilt and blanket donations. And so I kind of just watch for what happens. And if I have a few blankets waiting in the wings, that is fine, because anytime someone needs something, I just pack a box and off they go. I have a quilt and another blanket already held aside, and I'm working on another quilt right now and this blanket. So I should have 4 when I'm done, that I can send to whatever happens to be the next cause. The other place I sometimes donate is to Wool Aid. I found them through Ravelry, but you can look them up online. They are a 501c3 charity that donates to refugees. And they are called Wool Aid because 80% of anything that you knit has to be wool. So they're not so much into plant-based fibers or synthetics, just because wool is so warm, and it doesn't when you sweat, it doesn't tend to retain the scent of that. And so it's just a really good insulating fabric, easy to care for. And so they like everything that you make for them to be 80% wool. So I send a lot of things there. And then I have a lot of other charities that I donate to, just hats, scarves, sweaters, whatever. And I always want to be knitting and crafting, but I have so much, my cupboards and drawers overfloweth. So, so I've made peace with the fact that sometimes I am going to make things that I'm just going to wait for the right moment to come along for the right person or the right need for me. So One of the things that I did last week when it was a little bit slow is I cleaned out the closet in my craft room and I unearthed lots of things. It is not only a craft room closet. I mean, it is the closet in my office/craft room, but it has lots of things in there. It has everything from like old school books and paperwork and like it just has everything. But I did unearth lots of treasures and find things. I was able to give away a few bags of things to Goodwill. I was able to throw away some things. I kind of corralled all my scraps into one place so I can spend more time knitting with my scraps. And then one of the things that I found, and this was something that I had pulled out earlier in the year, was I found a whole bag of dishcloth cotton. And I know several places take dishcloth cotton basically as washcloths and then offer them with soap or offer them as dishcloths with dish soap, because a lot of people don't think about that when they donate to food pantries or shelters, that people need things to wash their dishes with and they also need things to wash their faces with. So my plan is to just turn all of that knitted cotton, all of that cotton into dishcloths and then figure out what I'm going to do with it from there. So for now, I'm just knitting with kind of a purpose in mind, but nothing really, really crazy. And originally, I was trying to knit some new and interesting washcloths, and I finally decided, you know what, there is one pattern out there that I really, really love. It's easy. I have it memorized. It's really cute. It works for a baby gift if you want to use it for that. It just works for anything. And so that is the leafy washcloth pattern, and that is by Megan Goodacre. It is a free pattern. I believe it is on Ravelry. Again, I downloaded it. I've made it a million times. And basically what you do is it's got a couple options. You can make it garter. You can make it stockinette. As soon as I wash and block these, they will lay flat, but basically they're just little leaves and they're super cute. You start at the stem and then well, I guess this is the stem down here. You start at the stem and then you work up through the leaves, and it's just a simple, basically you're increasing and decreasing. And again, this will lay flat once I kind of wash it and lay it out flat. It just kind of pulls a little bit. But so I love these. What I love to do actually is when I'm giving baby gifts, what I do is I'll roll them up like this, and I'll usually do a set of 2 or 3, and then I will package them with some Johnson & Johnson's baby shampoo. Sometimes I'll pick the lavender because that's really good before bath time, and so they make a really good gift. The other thing you could do is you could gift these with a really pretty soap bar, like handmade soap. I've done that before, and honestly right now, like I said, I'm just knitting through the cotton to get it knit up into dishcloths, and then or washcloths, and then I will figure out what's going to happen to it from there, but that's my plan. And I don't have a huge bag, but I have a decent amount. So last week I just got on a kick and I knit 5 of these, 1 each day. So I have 3 of the green ones, which this is like the perfect leafy washcloth, and I have a little bit more green, so there will be a couple more of those. And then I started on a ball of purple that was partially used, and so I have 2 purple ones. So I have pink, I have brown, I have red, I have gray, I have all kinds of dishcloth cotton that I bought. I think actually I'm working through a friend's stash of dishcloth cotton because I had a few balls of cotton, and then a friend, I think she went through her stash when she moved a couple years ago and handed me the rest of her dishcloth cotton. And so I think actually I'm working through 2 people's stashes. So, I mean, it's a decent sized Ziploc bag. It's not a ton. It's probably half a dozen balls, maybe 10 balls. So I can get several of these per ball, like maybe 3 or 4 per ball. So I'm just going to keep working on them a little bit on the side when the mood strikes. Probably not this week, but last week I didn't have a ton to do and was kind of on a kick, and they're perfect for during conference calls and whatnot. So that is what I did last week. So that brings me to my new cast on, which is kind of my favorite new thing, and this is what I'm going to be working on quite a bit. I am making a sweater for NaKniSweMo. That's National Knit a Sweater Month. It kicked off on Saturday, and I have chosen to knit 6 Crooked Highways, yes, by Kristen Jansuk, who is Media Peruana on social media and elsewhere. And it is a really pretty lightweight fingering sweater, turtleneck with dropped sleeves, and it has cables all over it. And I am knitting it in a really, really, really light fingering weight. It is one of my favorite yarns. It is from Cozy Colorworks, and I should have, yep, I have it here. This is Cozy Colorworks, and they are online. They have a shop, but I first visited them when I was at Rhinebeck several years ago, and their yarn was amazing. And then I ran into them at a Stitches Midwest a few years later and bought a sweater quantity of yarn, and that had to be probably 2017 or 2018, and I have been hoarding it since then and finally decided what to do with it. So this is the Cozy Colorworks. It's their sock yarn. It's 550 yards to 100 grams, which is why it is a super light fingering weight. Most sock yarns are 400 or even 430 437-ish yards. That's a lot of put up, and so this has a whole 100 yards extra, which means it is very lightweight. Mine is in the colorway Northern Lights, which happens to be a dark gray with splotches of yellow, a kind of yellowy green, and purple, basically just like the glows of the Northern Lights. This is what it looks like. And I have started and am approximately 2 inches in. This actually was a lot of knitting for this weekend, because when you knit a fingering weight sweater in really tiny stitches on really small needles, it just takes a while. So this is the start. Basically, it starts with a rolled hem, and then it's got 1 by 1 twisted ribbing. And I have just literally I've done the first row of the pattern. No cables yet, just kind of the setup row for setting the pattern stitch. And so that was kind of my work this weekend in the car. It actually took several hours, and I had to take breaks because my arm, I want to enjoy knitting this sweater this month, and I want to be able to knit it all month. So I don't want to start off too in a flurry. This will definitely be 50,000 stitches, because this roughly 2 inches here is already at 6,000 stitches. That's what happens when you have a really small, I'm getting about 7 stitches per inch, which technically the pattern calls for 6 stitches per inch. So I'm knitting a few sizes larger. I should have plenty of yarn, already checked that. And I am really happy with the gauge. I think it's going to be really nice fabric and wear really well. And I will still have enough ease in it to be like the pattern. So that is what I'm working on. You will be seeing this much over the next 4 to 6 weeks. I do not expect that I will have this finished during Thanksgiving, although I will have lots of time to work on it. Kind of a new thing for me is that this month is the first time that I do not have a million other things to work on besides my sweater. Every other year, I've still been sample knitting. I've been knitting chickens. I've been tech editing on the side. I've been doing a million other things. And I almost always have kids' socks and other things that I'm trying to crank out right before Thanksgiving because I'm so busy with the other things. But I have actually gotten far enough ahead that I can relax and pretty much knit nothing but this sweater this month. I have Roxy's one sock, and I have a few other projects if I want to dip into them, and if not, I'll get back to them in December. So I'm really excited to work on this for the month, and I think it's going to be a fun month, and I'm just looking forward to it. So expect to see good progress on this. Again, this is only 2 days. It was Saturday and Sunday. And so my plan is to work on it quite a while every evening, and hopefully get through lots and be able to show you more. Basically, the pattern starts from bottom up, and I'm knitting in a tube for quite a few inches. So this is going to be a little boring in the sense that you'll just see the tube getting longer and longer until I split for the armholes and sleeves and then do the turtleneck last. So that is kind of the construction plan on the sweater. And again, this is for NaKniSweMo. To be eligible for prizes, which we have not done in the past few years, I would have to be done by November 30th. But my plan, my prize at the end of this is a brand new sweater that I hope I'm going to love wearing. And if it takes me through December, that's fine. I mean, my goal is to kind of have it finished by the end of the year. Ditto that blanket that I just showed you. These are kind of my last two things while in Roxy's sock. The last three things I would like to finish off for the year. And if I get there, that would be great. If I need to do some more dishcloths, that would be fine. And I might cast on a pair of Christmas socks. I have thought about that, maybe casting on a pair of socks on Christmas Eve with Little Bobbins Knits. That's Danny. I have done that every year for the past probably 10 years, and I have some yarn picked out, and so my thought is that I will probably do that. But if that is all I get done this year, I think I have done pretty well for this year, and I do have some other quilting things that I'd like to finish before the end of the year. So that's kind of the plan there, and this is what I've got. So quick sip of tea, and then I will talk about spinning a little bit, and then we will be done. So I meant to calculate how much yardage is in my latest spin so that I could tell you, and I forgot to do that. And you know what? Hang on. I'm recording with my cell phone, but this is my old cell phone and I still keep it. And I have a calculator feature on here. So let me do this real fast and I can tell you 2 times 197. Okay, so the spin I'm about to show you is about 328 yards and it will already be listed on Etsy. That's my goal by the end of the day. It will already be listed on Etsy by the time you see this podcast. This is what I call old school fiber by a dyer who is no longer dyeing. The dyer is Cloud Lover. She was out of Chicago and she dyed lovely fiber. This is Hibiscus Superwash Merino. That pretty much says all you need to know. It is superwash, so it would be great for socks. It's also fluffy and soft and would be pretty for any kind of accessories, and it is pinks and purples. So this is what it looks like. I love the barber pulling on this, and it's just super soft and squishy. Yeah, it's already been washed, and it's already had its bath, and so those are final numbers, 328 yards, which should be enough for an average pair of socks, or you can use it for something else, but I just think it's gorgeous. It's just got all the pinks and purples in it without being like entirely Barbie, I think. I mean, it's definitely hibiscus and floral and garden as opposed to Barbie pink. So that will be up in the shop by later today, and I'm really excited about that. It's so squishy. So that brings me to my next spin. I showed you some fiber last week from Treasure Goddess. I do have all the labels. I'm very on it today. This is Treasure Goddess. It's a Polworth Tessa Silk 8515, and she called this dye day because it was basically all the dye that was left at the end of the day after she had a dyeing day in her studio, and I was actually there for that. And we poured the leftover dyes into a few different jars based on kind of the colors that we had left, and then she dyed this gorgeous purple fiber. So you can see it's got some pink and some purple, and this is Polworth silk, and you can see the silk took the dye differently. There's also a few spots where some blue struck. Let's see if I can find some of it. You can see a little bit where it looks bluer. So there's just all kinds of pretty colors in here. I will say that as I started to spin this up, this is the second half of the fiber, I did notice that it is looking fairly monotone because it is, even though there is subtle variation as you look at it, the fiber itself is pretty much spinning up fairly one note. And you know me, I like color. So I was looking at some of the other braids that were in my stash and trying to decide if what I wanted to do with this was a combo spin, and I found something. If you are a member of the Hello Yarn Fiber Club, this was September's selection, so it was shipped on October 1st. Being that it's now November 3rd, I'm going to assume that I'm not going to spoil anyone by showing it now because it's been over a month, so even if you live overseas, you probably should have gotten it by now. But on the off chance you haven't and don't want to be spoiled, I will just say that. This was September's Fiber Club, and it is called Ornamental Cabbage. And so it has the purples in it that I think, actually, that doesn't go as well as I thought it would. Maybe this isn't going to be my combo spin. I really thought that these two would go well together, but I'm not sure that that is what I'm going to do. Okay, I may be going back to the drawing board for a second one, but I am spinning this one up this week. I hope that I will have the all of this spun up. Sorry, excuse me. All of this spun up by the time I see you next, and I don't think this is going to be the combo color. I think I'm going to go try and find something else that will go with it better. When they were just sitting in the bags, I really thought they went together, but I don't like that as much as I once did. So, because this is definitely much redder and purpler and like more of a red purple, and this is definitely more of a blue purple. Huh. Okay. You never know what you're going to see on camera. So I'm going to be working on this one this week. I'm still kind of in the mood for a combo spin, so I will probably go run through my stash and see what I can find that might go with this so that I can do a 2-ply. Which means this will be 8 ounces of fiber, which means there'll be plenty to work with, and this will likely end up in the shop. Like I said, I realized that I didn't think it was going to be as interesting as I thought because there's just not as much variation as I thought as I spin it. So that's my plan now. I'm going to find something else to spin with this, and we'll see what happens. So that is all I have for you today. I hope that you have a lovely week ahead, that you are settling in. I really want to get some work done on that quilt top that I was working on. So my plan is to hopefully finish the top this weekend. And then I'm going to go back to the fireworks finale quilt and do some red and blue. This month is all pinwheels and it's huge chunks of the quilt, so I have lots and lots of work to do there. So my plan is to kind of finish my quilt top and then go back to the other one and do the blocks for this month, and then I hope to go back and finish quilting that quilt by the end of the year. So that is kind of my plan as far as quilts go. Do more on my red, white, and blue quilt and finish that other quilt that I have showed you. And so that's kind of my goal. I'm starting to think about what I want next year to look like. I'm starting to set up my spreadsheets for next year. Yes, I'm that kind of person. I did not do spreadsheets this year. I don't know why. I think at the beginning of the year, I just didn't think about it, or I just didn't, I don't know why. I am going to set them up for next year. And so I don't know how I'm going to share my totals with you for this year, but we're just going to sit on that for a little bit because I might pull some things together. Otherwise, I might just wing it. I don't know. I like putting together stats to see how productive I was. I'm definitely one of those product knitters where I want to know what I've accomplished in the year. Also, I am in a position, at least right now, where I am trying to take in less than I use. I am overwhelmed by how much I have, and I would like to take the stuff that I've been saving for a rainy day and try and use some of that. That does not mean that I will not be buying next year, but it does. I would like to be more mindful about the buying and also use a lot of what I have. I'm in this weird position where now, for the first time in several years, I do not have a lot of contract work, and so I'm able to use my own stash, and I definitely want to work on that. The only other thing that I'm like super excited about and starting to think about, but trying not to get too ahead of myself, is Wes's niece. On Wes's side, my niece has announced she's having a baby. And so Wes and I are super excited for her and her husband. They got married almost 2 years ago. She's the one that I knit the mosaic blanket for. And they just announced, so I think they're due sometime in the spring or early summer. And I want to start figuring out what I might make for them. I can't decide if I want to do a quilt, if I want to do a knitted blanket, if I want to knit some baby clothes. I'm trying not to let myself get carried away here. So Wes and I have no children, and so this is kind of being a great aunt and great uncle is probably the closest to grandparents that will ever be. And so I'm getting kind of excited. And of course, on my side of the family, Roxy's only 12, so I am hoping for lots more years before I get to have that experience on my side of the family, but I will live vicariously through my niece on Wes's side, and we're just super excited for them. And you know how I love knitting for little people. They're just one of my favorite things to do. So I hope that you have a lovely week ahead. I hope that you're enjoying your crafting and sort of making it through all of the complicated things this world throws at us. And I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.